Hello and welcome to The Birth of a New Dimension. So my name is Aurora. I'm talking to you about the concept of the flying rainbow lasagna, or higher dimensional torus shape that is a portal to your DNA. And this will be the final broadcast of this particular radio show and expression of flying rainbow lasagna ideas on UCY TV. So the lovely person who is the producer for this show and many others on UCY has been going through some stress-related health issues, and it needs to take the time in order to focus on their well-being. So we'll not be running the the organizational details of and administrating. It's a huge burden in order to produce and process and upload all of these shows each week. So many thanks to Jewel, the producer, who has been doing this for so many years, and for giving me this platform in order to share these ideas, and sending so many good wishes to Jewel for health, well-being, and a peaceful life with no stress. So with sadness, I tell you that I won't be speaking here on this particular forum any longer. However, you know that I will still continue to be broadcasting my ideas. So you can still connect with me very well via my YouTube channel, which is of course called Channel Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and that's lasagna with an E on the end. And that is where I do my ongoing webinar series called Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. So if you want to find me, you can do a internet search for Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, and my YouTube videos should all show up. So I'm doing the webinar I have organized loosely into semesters. Basically the first half of the year and then the second half of the year. So I am just now completing the first half of 2018, the first semester, and wrapping up everything next week, then going to take 1 week off, and then going to restart the teaching cycle again. So for anyone who is interested in delving more profoundly into these ideas, please join me. And there's formal enrollment. Brief pause. There's formal enrollment, which you can do via Patreon, or at my actual Teachable site, where that hosts the course, the actual recorded lessons. I always want to say that if you don't have physical currency to be able to pay the tuition and participate, please do not allow that to be the limitation or the constraint or the stumbling block. Access to these ideas and being able to participate in the webinars should never be based upon how much physical money we have in our pockets, because it's pretty evident right now that we live in this inverted world, this distorted quote-unquote fun house, this not-so-fun house, where people who can be doing wonderful things and sending out very benevolent, loving energy are not necessarily having that energy reflected back in the form of money. This is all, of course, changing due to what has happened, the birth of a new dimension. So in this episode, this farewell episode, what I would like to do is kind of wrap things up in a good way, and also, give you an opportunity to be able to continue following along. So enroll in the class. If there are any issues with being able to afford tuition or afford, the monthly Patreon contributions, please don't make that stop you from being in the class. Just send me a private message or an email, and I'm happy to give you scholarships, because I've given many people scholarships. It's like giving people an opportunity to participate whether or not they have money, and those have been some of the most wonderful, assiduous, students who apply themselves very much to the material and who have great insights. So I'm never regretful that I gave out scholarships to people. I'm always like, good. And that's the whole point of why I'm here, is not simply to line my pockets. I mean, I need to keep my electric going, and I need to pay my rent for my studio. However, my goal with sharing this information has not been to have a golden toilet seat. It has been to give a tool for freedom to as many people as possible. I call it open source, and people have interpreted that in a variety of different ways. My intention when I say my Flying Rainbow Lasagna is open source is to say, when I first came here to this world, so P.S., I'm a walk-in. I am a galactic abstraction, a star person that came into this body through the genetic portal that I created and invented and named the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And when I came here in 2001, with the Flying Rainbow Lasagna concept, and I started to make it in the form of drawings and paintings and sculptures, I learned about earth culture and I said, okay, like how do I get the credit for being the first person, to have this idea and to share it widely and disseminate it? And I looked into all these different things, and the idea of patenting it, was something someone suggested to me. So I looked into it, and I did not patent the flying rainbow lasagna because it's kind of antithetical to my whole approach, which is that it's an idea that I had first. I invented it, I created it. However, it's not proprietary only for me. It's not something like I get to do flying rainbow lasagna with my DNA and then oops, screw everyone else. No, it's not like that at all. It is something where I'm the first person that did it. It's like writing a song. Like, someone wrote Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. They're the first person that ever wrote that song. And then many, many, many other people have learned and sang or played that song. So the flying rainbow lasagna is a new dance, a new format for weaving your genetic code. And I'm the first person that has done it. However, I am not, I hope, the only person that will ever do it. And more and more people have been sharing their anecdotal experiences of doing the flying rainbow lasagna and how it's changed their life. Hold on a second. One person wrote me a message on social media that she was in a near miss car accident, but it's not near miss because what happened was she did the flying rainbow lasagna in like right before the moment of impact as a car was kind of like swerving into her. And what she changed timelines, and what she saw was part of her car going transparent while the other car went through that area of her car, but she found herself in the lane next to it, safely having swerved out of the way. So it's the beginning of being adept on a multi-dimensional level for each one of us. I'm so happy when people tell me, first of all, I'm happy that this person avoided death or profound injury, because this is all part of being a part of the symphony of life. And she might play some crucial role in the symphony. She might have to play the oboe or the piccolo. And if she were smashed up in a car wreck or dead, then she would not be able to do that vital thing that actually helps all of us being here. So flying rainbow lasagna is a tool, and it is a tool for freedom and personal empowerment and uplift, meaning becoming the auteur of your own existence. So if you're the scriptwriter and you're writing the script of your own movie, or your own life experience, do you want to write the story of, then one day went out shopping for groceries and got smashed up on the highway and died, or, had their legs chopped off? No, you don't want to write that. In fact, very, very few people, possibly some masochists, would want to write that story for themselves. But very, very few ordinary, healthy people would say, yes, let us write this story of death or dismemberment. So I'm really happy when I see that people are beginning to take this basic melody, my little twinkle, twinkle star melody, and taking it and applying it to their own life, their own physical existence, their own flight through time. That is what this is all about. So, okay, and I keep on pausing to save my work. The whole idea is that we are not supposed to be just like hapless ping pong balls, bouncing through the time field, experiencing, hitting into the membrane of death and having to go back to the beginning and start again until we, somehow blindly bounce our way out of these levels of limitation. No, and I reiterate this on every week's broadcast. So if you're a long-term listener, first of all, thank you. And thank you for being with me on the journey. And I've been doing this radio show for oh my goodness, about 4 years now. And I can tell you a little anecdote about how I ended up with this show, like how things happen. Because I'm telling you, life is like a treasure hunt, and you never exactly know where the treasure is going to be. Like, look under every rock. You don't know where the treasure is going to be. So back when I was in Woodstock, and that's over 5 years ago now because I've moved to California subsequently, in that last year when I was recognizing I needed to move because of access to medical cannabis and CBD medicine, and also to have greater access to regular periods of sunlight. Because winter in Woodstock, like from November to March, you do not get a lot of sunlight there. And it was very, very challenging for me to do my sun gazing exercises and get the non-food-based energy to be able to do this inner transformation metamorphosis work that I call flying rainbow lasagna dancing. It all runs on sunlight. So some of that sunlight comes in the form of solidified food like peanut butter, apples, eggs, all the good stuff that I eat. And part of it comes in the form of non-physical food, which is the consciousness rays that are broadcasted by the sun. And so, I was in that last year of transitioning, knowing that I wanted to move from Woodstock and move to California, but not having, the exact details and not having done it yet. And I just collecting my thoughts here. I wasn't really focusing on my art career in Woodstock and establishing, getting another show for that year because my sights were really set on moving to California and relocating. But a person that I know who ran a small gallery and record shop in Woodstock knocked on my door one day. Like literally it fell in my lap. She knocked right on my door and said, "Hey, I'd love to feature your artwork in my studio, in my gallery rather." So I said, okay, like this, clearly is in my path. That's what I'm trying to say. Like in the choose your own adventure novel of your life, or it's like game theory. You sit down on a park bench in a game theory. Someone comes along and sits down next to you. You can either ignore them or you can say, wait a minute, this is obviously part of the overall structure of the game and I should strike up a conversation and talk with them and see if they have some magical quest to give to me. So the person knocked on my door, offered me the show, and I'm like, okay, I'll do this show. Like it doesn't conflict with my moving to California. It will happen beforehand. So put my artwork up and, gave an artist talk, and the show was featured for like over a month. And one day I just needed to go in there in order to drop off some business cards. And I didn't even put on like decent clothes. I just wore like sweatpants. My hair was in a bun. It was not looking my best. And I ended up meeting two lovely people who were visitors to Woodstock, who were looking at the artwork and they were really enjoying and appreciating it. One of whom is Brandon de Turbeville, and he's got his own show, or has had his own show here on UCY. And he was impressed with my artwork and he was impressed with my ideas. And we had a lovely conversation and we exchanged information so that we could keep in touch. And then, months passed and I moved to California. And then after many months, Brandon contacted me and he said that he had recommended me to the producer at UCY because I have a lot of ideas that I could, do some jazzy work. And so, Jewel reached out and offered me a weekly show. And that was a really wonderful opportunity. So I share this in order to say that I did not know by accepting that show, that art show, that by displaying my artwork, usually as an artist, you think like, oh, good, this is a good way for me to sell paintings or, get into another gallery or something like that. You don't necessarily know what it will lead to. So in a very lovely way, that opportunity and experience led to me doing this show and Birth of a New Dimension, being given the opportunity to I guess I'd call it editorialize. So, in my classes, I share information that is very empirical and abstract and usually is, diagrammatical and very visual. And here on the radio, because I couldn't do the drawing with pictures, speaking with pictures that I'm so used to, I've had to find a different way to try and communicate these ideas. So it's been a little bit more like storytelling and narration. And I feel it's been very valuable and incredibly, I've had a wonderful opportunity by speaking here each week to fine-tune my voice, like hone my voice, hone my ability to express myself through words. That's actually a challenge because, so that's part of the neurological damage that I have overcome and superseded with the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. When I first came into this body, I was dealing with a lot of the neurological damage and brain damage that came from the death of the previous occupant. So there was an anoxic brain injury, and a lot of it affected word choice and the capacity to, express myself effectively using verbalized language. So, I didn't have to completely relearn English. What I had to learn was how to choose the words that I actually wanted to, because a lot of the time I would choose a word that was either related or sounded similar but did not actually have the same meaning. So, it's very gratifying to me. I also did a lot of work on an old community access show. This is back when I was in Woodstock, like maybe in 2006 or so, that I had my own little show that I called Planet Aurora, jokingly, because people would always ask me, well, Aurora, like, what planet are you from? So I would joke that every Wednesday I would fly to my home planet and broadcast from there, tell everyone what's up and, what life is like from my home planet. So doing Planet, it was also like, it was only on in the middle of the night, hardly ever got taped. It hardly ever had an audience. So it made me feel like, kind of safe to express myself, even though my self-expression was not perfect. My words I stumbled often in my words. And it's been a challenge to be able to figure out how to put some of these more abstract concepts into language and into, a digestible package that other people can eat and understand. So that was one part of the journey of doing that. And then this radio show has also been another part of the journey. So also, during the past 4 years that I've done this show, and I always try to make each show relevant to the larger time field, the larger context, not just relevant to this week. So I always try to make it as if, if you only listen to one show, one broadcast, that it would somehow contain all of the important stuff, like a fractal shard of everything that contains everything that's important, so that you've got all the highlights. So that's why I, reiterate and emphasize over and over the same points. Over the past several years that I've been doing this show, we've all been undergoing a profound inner and outer transformation. That is what I refer to when I say birth of a new dimension. And it's really, I think, maybe appropriate that this particular, show, this particular performance, this particular song is coming to an end, because we've gone through the birth process. We did it all together. It's pretty amazing. Birth in terms of cosmic time scale, like human birth, might take a day. Cosmic time scale, birth might take 4 or 5 years. And that's what we've all been experiencing and witnessing and co-creating together. And this new dimension that we have collectively given birth to, we are not only the parent, we are also the tiny newborn infant. And we are infants of consciousness. And we've been born into a new realm where now matter responds directly to thought or consciousness, or matter responds directly to the intangibles that would previously have been defined as your inner realm. In the past, we had this barrier called the ego, that is like a membrane that separates you from the rest of the world. And everything that's inside of your membrane, inside of your epidermis, inside of your mind, and inside has quotes around it here. All of that stuff that's invisible and intangible, in many ways it is devalued by the objective materialist society. And it was also, it's a bifurcated world where your thoughts and your dreams and your passions and your desires and your emotions are all internal to you. And then according to this objective materialist model of reality, everything else that's outside of you doesn't really care one flick of a tail, doesn't give two craps about what's going on inside of you. Like the table is the table, doesn't care whether you're happy or sad. And it's been a long road of Earth's surface humans coming to understand and accept things like teachings from the quantum scientists who started to say in the early 20th century, hey, wait a minute, even though it looks like the rest of the world is filled with just dead, stupid, inert matter, our minds appear to be affecting that matter. And this is the question of observership and experiments like the double slit experiment or thought experiments like Schrödinger's cat. The idea that our mind, or the process of observing reality, collapses waveforms of potential into edifices of reality that can actually be experienced. So this is what I talk about when I say you become the author of your reality. You're collapsing those waveforms, my dear. You collective, everyone here, we are all wonderful artists of reality. Even if you've never picked up a paintbrush, with your mind and with your imagination and with your perception. And perception goes way beyond merely like eyeballs. It's not just your eyeballs, it's not just your ear holes. It's what we do with the information and data that comes in through our eyeballs and ear holes. That we're given this essentially abstract feedback about the world around us. And then we build a story. And write a story about what these things mean and what is going on and what is our place in that world. So for a very long time, humans have been writing this story of basically you don't count. Like, yeah, you're nothing. You're lowly beggars. You're dreamers and you can't do anything to the world. And I'm teaching something completely different. I am teaching that your actual perception is a creative act, and that the more that we become virtuosos, the more that we can control our expression in the physical realm and even have a more divine expression. That, yeah, the painting has been looking ugly. I use this example all the time, every week. Children are born with brain cancer. Babies born with brain cancer. That's not karmic justice. Please flush all your ideas about karma down the toilet. No, that's not, because, theoretically, if you come into the world with a profound disease like brain cancer, it's like, you haven't done anything yet. How can you possibly be getting that from your actions? So, yeah, babies have brain cancer because in this time and place, many times, parents have been exposed to freaking Roundup, the glyphosate, the horrible poison that is essentially being used on so many farm crops, and it's a wonderful carcinogen. It creates cancer very effectively in the body. So yeah, I mean, it's a total unfairness. It's not right for a baby to be born with a disease because their parents walked past a field that had been sprayed with Roundup, or that their produce from the grocery store was sprayed with the freaking pesticide poison chemical. This is the world that we have lived in, that we are coming out of. So yeah, when I'm observing the world, I don't want to collapse waveforms into the reality of babies born with brain cancer. I want to collapse waveforms into a different reality. And this is a consensual reality. It's a symphony. I'm not just one soloist, because you could say like, well, Aurora, why don't you just blah, blah, blah? Well, I'd love to just blah, 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 everyone believe me, but I got all these other pesky people around here. It's not just a solo. I'm not just one lone guitar player playing in my garage with no one else connecting. There's actually a big, huge symphony out here. It's a symphony of life that includes all of these organisms, because it includes GMO Monsanto corn, and it includes microbes, and it includes monarch butterflies, because the monarch butterflies die when they eat the stupid GMO corn. And it's a out of tune world. And instead of just throwing up one's hands and saying, ugh, it's an out of tune world, there's nothing to be done, like let me just anesthetize myself with alcohol or something like that, that's not the appropriate response. What you can actually say is, wait a minute, I've got this powerful reality creation machine inside of my own head. That's called my imagination. It's my thoughts and my feelings and my higher faculties. And the higher faculties includes your pineal gland as a projection mechanism, like perception and projection. But it's also your system of interpretation, like your cosmology, your story of you, where the origin story of the cosmos. Where did everything come from? Why are we here? And who are you in that context? All of that. So yeah, we all got to understand we are all God. Like that's with the final denouement. When you do it right, you get to your... Oh, there's something loud outside. Get to the final frame of the movie. When you've done it right, the final frame is the inner realization. I am God. And each organism has that realization, from microbe to human to giant redwood tree to galactic level-sized being. And that's how you know you're doing it right. And when you have that realization, I am God, it's not like you poof out of existence or stop being you. You're still you, realizing and recognizing that you are a divine being. And how heavenly would our entire world be, and every timeline and every cosmos would be, if everybody had that realization of inner divinity, and then all manifested reality coming from that level of personal responsibility. Because many people would say, I'm not responsible for the babies with brain cancer. That's somebody else's fault. It's Monsanto's fault. And P.S. I'm not God. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You're the dreamer of the dream. You are the dreamer of this dream. And so the babies with brain cancer might be peripheral characters in your dream if they're not actually your child or family member, but you're still dreaming them. You're still dreaming that. So it's a collective dream. It doesn't have to be a nightmare. It could be actually a really, really beautiful dream if we can learn to begin to control it. So over the past 4 years, as I've been speaking, flapping my moving mouth parts on the radio every week, we've all been learning to become virtuosos. And I've gotten a little bit of a head start in terms of doing the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, because I started in 2001, and I recognize that it's not something that is understood overnight. So as I've been teaching it in my online class, I give everybody, I'm not a taskmaster at all. I give everybody the time and breathing space that they need to learn and grow and practice, and not expect it to happen overnight or just in the mirror. I'm going to snap my fingers in the mirror, snap of a fingers, to become a virtuoso. So yeah, some people seem to be able to grasp or intuit the shape almost immediately. And for many people, it takes many months or years of exposure to these ideas over and over, and then finally one day something clicks and they're like, oh, I understand what this is and I understand how to do it. So yes, please, I don't pressure you. Please don't pressure yourself in the sense of, I have to Flying Rainbow Lasagna right now. Being a musician or an artist is cumulative. And an athlete also, we can also equate this to being an athlete. If you lift weights and go for a run one day, then you do it again the next day, it actually gets easier. And same thing with the song. First time you practice it, it's hard. The next time you do it, it's more fluid, it's easier. And also with some of the paintings that I do, because they're all based on this language of vibration and kind of an organization of polygons and shapes and the way that they all fit together. The first ones that I did were very misshapen. They were not perfect, but I did them, and they got better and better and tighter and more exact, and the level of detail and the scale of the detail got better and better the more that I did it. So all of this in order to say that we've been, laboring under duress. That's, the birth pangs, the contractions, and these have been inner transformational pains and also external transformational pains. What we're seeing going on in terms of our the Earth's surface human society, social, cultural, and economic, has all been part of birth of a new dimension, giving birth to a realm where your imagination is completely powerful. And for most people, that's unimaginable. They think imagination, like, that's stupid. That's worthless. That's kid stuff. That's dumb. But no, it's not. And many times I think I always use this example of the movie The Green Lantern. It's not a very good movie, so I kind of look at it with scorn and derision. And part of the ridiculousness of it is that the guy gets the magic ring to be the Green Lantern, and then it means he can make whatever he wants to make with his imagination, in a crisis. So with his imagination in one of these moments of crisis, he imagines a gun. It's like, I gotta shoot my way out of here with a gun. Or like a car is another example. He imagines a car and they drive away. I'm like, those are the lamest things that you could imagine. Anything in the whole entire world. You can invent something with your imagination and have it be there. And the guy doesn't innovate, and he doesn't, imagine very, wonderful, impressive solutions. And so I'm trying to say it's almost like this ring of imagination is wasted on this lumpen guy with this, very slow, unimpressive imagination. What if you were given a ring of imagination and you used it to imagine 1,000,000 rings of imagination that you could give out to other people? Wow, wouldn't that be wonderful to empower all of these other people so that they could also imagine things into existence? And this is essentially what Birth of a New Dimension is. We have all been doing the self-cultivation, the inner work, because it's just like in a dream. If you are perturbed, if you've had traumas, or if you had a bad, horrible day, then you go to sleep, your perturbations and your buried traumas come out in your dreaming. And the idea is doing inner work, self-healing, inner cultivation, and basically love. When you begin to really love and accept yourself, that it's healing on a profound level, and that then you do not carry those burdens with you into the next level of creativity. Because the world that we're experiencing now is like a dream world. Many people have commented about this recently. Like, the world feels surreal. Like, Donald Trump is the president. Like, isn't he some reality TV mogul? Like, how can this be? All these, weird things are going on. Seemingly impossible or very unlikely things are going on. Yes, if you're noticing that, yes, that's actually very true. We are in a very surreal world because we're in a world that is created directly with mind. And the world that we create does have to integrate with the world that we're coming out of. So this is the idea of continuity, that, in a dream, our logic is somewhat short-circuited. So it's like, first I was driving down the road, and then I found myself instantaneously, on a beach. And there's no continuity. There's no connection or integument that's like, I remember parking my car and then getting out of the car and walking over to the beach. And in what we determine or define as reality, physical hard-edged object reality, we need to have continuity, because otherwise people start to think like, whoa, like the fabric of reality is falling apart. So we need to have some continuity that ties together the events of the world that we are coming out of. That is a very unfair world of babies born with brain cancer, into this new world of expansive possibilities and also of real justice. What does that continuity look like? It can look different to different people, because for some people they might think, oh, I went through a magical doorway and now I'm in a different world. Or for some people they might have gone through a near-death experience. Oh, I might have gotten in that car wreck, but I didn't, and now everything is different since that day, or whatever. Like, I'm just throwing out possibilities. I'm not wedded to any of these possibilities, and I'm not suggesting them for you. I'm using them as examples of going through a mental portal, a profound change, a watershed moment, after which everything is different. So many people have been looking at, end times prophecies and things like that, and expecting like one day, sky god Jesus will return and then everything will be different. And so like that's their expectation. I'm not, again, espousing that expectation. It's the idea that there would be a transformative moment that one could pinpoint and say, well, everything is different after that moment. In my own life, coming into this body, walking into this body through the genetic portal and creating the genetic portal called the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, that is a watershed moment for me. That is like bifurcates everything that happened beforehand and everything that has happened afterwards. And I've been watching personally an expansion and amplification of the inner being manifested into the outer, like the inner realm of dreams and imaginations and desires actually being manifested into the outer world. So along about that same time that I had that art show back in Woodstock, I remember sitting in my Merkaba, in my living room, like doing my Merkaba exercises and thinking about a chocolate bar, and then actually walking to the local cafe and seeing the chocolate bar on display. And I was like, wait a minute, I was just thinking that, and now this is over here, so I can magically say, oh, somehow I magically painted that with the paintbrush of my mind, or somehow my thought structure traveled back in time like a ripple on a pond, traveling backwards in time, affecting the chocolate company, making them put the particular designs on the wrapper that they put on the wrapper, and making the person at the cafe who's in charge of merchandising buy that, get that particular brand as opposed to a different brand. Like you can look at it in a magical sense, or you can look at it in a logical sense, but in whatever way, the most empirical description is my mind, my imagination affected reality. And so that was just a little tiny blip on the radar screen. That was many, many years ago. It's just like when you're building muscles as an athlete. First you lift a 5-pound weight, and then you challenge your body with that. And then when you've superseded that level of difficulty, then you move up to heavier and heavier and heavier weights. So now, in my manifestation of my inner world to the outer world, I carry much heavier weights, that I'm able to have more complex desires manifested than merely a chocolate bar. Like, that's a pretty simple thing to make happen. And so, I've been focusing my manifestation energy on planetary healing, on really cosmos-wide healing, but focused on this planet because I'm here right now, and I know I'm a visitor. I've lived in many places in many different communities. Like, I lived in Woodstock, I lived in Humboldt, and now I live in Southern California. And each time when I've lived someplace, I care about the place that I live, and I don't stop caring about it just because I move away to, like, I've just been, refining my ideal existence. But all of this in order to say, even though I've been a visitor to this planet and a newcomer to the experience of having a human body, I care about this planet and I'm deeply invested in the events here. I have a body just like all of the other beautiful humans here do. I need to have clean air and clean water and, an unperturbed existence. And I care about all of the same thing. I have the same concerns as people that, originate from here, or that have been here their whole entire lives from the beginning. And so it's just like if I lived in Woodstock, I cared about what was going on there. I wouldn't want to have, trash thrown around or, some horrible thing going on. And say in Humboldt, I cared about the redwood trees. I consider them my brethren. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. And where I live now, there's questions about water and water accessibility and drought and things like that. I care about all of that. My concerns are the same as the long-term residents of this place. So my concerns are the same on this planet. as the long-term residents of this planet, even though I'm a newcomer. And I'm also, I validate my existence here. I'm not like some outsider who has swooped in like an opportunist, like, oh, you're all down in the dumps. I'll just take advantage of this in order to completely take over and control you all. Like, no, that's not what I'm doing at all. What I'm doing is offering a solution. And I understand the veils of skepticism through which I am perceived. They're like, you're offering a solution? Prove it. Like, we've been screwed over before. I totally understand it. So I've had to do a lot of affirming my value system just by evidencing it with my behavior. That's why I always make sure that scholarships are available. I'm not some cutthroat profiteer. Wait, I got a drink of water. Yeah, I'm not some cutthroat profiteer that's just here to get a whole bunch of money, even though, what I learned is the more physical resources that I have, the more money that I have, the more I can focus on uplifting activities and sharing Flying Rainbow Lasagna ideas with other people through art and music. And artwork and music actually require equipment to create. They're not created just, out of nothingness. Physical artwork, you need paints and, I need a studio with lights. And to make music, there's tons of musical equipment required. You can just sing a cappella, and I've done that for many, many years. But if you really want to share your music with others, you need to have a microphone and, maybe some other musicians or the capacity to play a background music. And you need instruments is what I'm trying to say. You need equipment, you need recording equipment and software. So my efforts have been to get the necessary resources to be able to express these Flying Rainbow Lasagna ideas effectively. And, I've said also many times, it would not be very valuable to me if I had millions and millions of dollars, if I sat on a golden toilet seat and I lived in some gated community, like up on a mountaintop, and everyone else in the world was suffering. The babies were still born with brain cancer. Children are still eating out of a garbage heap, scavenging in order to try to stay alive. Like, there's still huge rape, iniquity, all of that. I would actually not be happy and free and fulfilled. I would be like more comfortable in my immediate environment. But true wealth is the transformation of the fabric of reality and this entire planet and this entire cosmos, because all of our minds are connected. All of our minds and our consciousness are having these experiences, and we definitely affect one another. So if someone's out there getting raped, it actually affects our minds too. That when other people are miserable, it actually affects our minds. So there is some self-interest in wanting everyone to be happy, safe, and comfortable, and to be able to live their lives unmolested and have all the resources that they need in order to, thrive and live their lives effectively. That's not just like stupid, hippie, whatever, candy-ass thinking. That's not that. It's actually very practical. And just on a basic sense, if you're a very wealthy person in a world of profound poverty, at a certain point the peasants revolt and they drag you out of your mansion and, they guillotine you because they're starving and they've gone insane from starvation. It's not very good to have huge levels of social and economic iniquity. You're not actually safe if many, many people in the world around you are starving and suffering in profound poverty. So the one is it affects the tone, the vibration, the timbre of all of the consciousness that's here on this planet. And also, in a very practical sense, you're a lot safer when there aren't like armed gangs, roving gangs of starving peasants with pitchforks and torches trying to drag you out of your mansion. So my efforts in manifestation, when I'm saying my manifestation muscles have grown from a mere 5-pound weight, to something heftier. My manifestation muscles have been focusing on the totality, on this whole entire society being improved. And it's a big job, and I don't pretend to have to do it alone. Like, I'm all about collaborating. It's one of my basic values. I mean, I'll do it alone if I have to. That's no problem. I can definitely, it's like, I'm adequate. I can definitely do it. It's just like saying, you could be a one-person band, one-man band. You can play everything. Because with modern software, you can do that. Like, you can be the drummer and lay down the drum track and then do the next instrument, the next thing, and the next thing. And look at that. You did the whole thing all by yourself. You can do that. However, I think as a musician, it's more fun and gratifying to play with others, and there are often wonderful surprises that come up from working with other people and seeing how they creatively approach, problem solving and self-expression, and they can make the artwork even better and have even more profound levels of juicy goodness. So that's the whole idea of imagining up a bunch of imagination rings for everyone around here. What if everyone got empowered by flying rainbow lasagna? What if it wasn't just one person or two people who could use their mental powers to imagine a better, happier, safer, more comfortable reality and make the music of the world sound a lot better? You'd still have a lot of crappy musicians. You have two good virtuosos, but a lot of crap. What if you had 20 million virtuosos? Wow, you would start to have a really amazing world, and people living in that world would start to have a really amazing life experience. So this is my intention. It's not a small intention at all. I'm really intending for each one of us, naturally occurring biological humans out here, to regain higher faculties, meaning the higher dimensional levels of perception that rest above the level of mere unconditional love. So for many years on this planet, unconditional love was looked at as the pinnacle. Like, if you sit on a mountaintop and meditate all day long, then maybe one day you'll reach unconditional love. But I'm telling everyone, unconditional love is the baseline, like the foundation. Little babies come here, little tiny infants, and that's what they are singing, the unconditional love tone, and they're doing it. And it's not something that's only, for the pinnacle of achievement. It's what we're supposed to be doing all the time. And that this hacked human operating system, OS human, is an inhibitor of creating that love tone. And same thing with verbalization, the daily waking, conscious, verbalized mind, that it makes it very difficult for us to remain and remain in that love tone and continue to emit it to others. So it's like you come here as a baby, you're very loving, and then as you begin to learn your ego structure and also human language structure and download the operating system known as human, the connection to the divine and to that world of pure love becomes tarnished or diminished, or you lose the signal a little bit. It's not 4 bars on your signal anymore. Now maybe it's 1 bar. Maybe it's very intermittent. Maybe you can barely hear what's going on in the divine realm, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. So the solution is reactivating those higher faculties, the higher faculties that allow us to perceive multidimensionally, what many people would call seeing through time. So being able to perceive the future, that's not a superpower. That's a regular human power. That's something we're all supposed to be able to do. Look down the road of time and accurately see what is coming in the future. Because if you can't see what's coming in the future, how can you make good choices about what you're doing with your life? You're not just supposed to be this hapless ping pong ball. So flying rainbow lasagna is one method for reconnecting to the source of energy, the divine, origins of consciousness, and reweaving your DNA so that you can supersede the things that shut down, essentially, the higher faculties. So part of it is becoming multidimensionally perceptive again, and then part of it is using this flying rainbow lasagna concept to rearrange DNA, which is the integument that ties us together from moment to moment. That the dance of our DNA, dance movements, if you were watching me on camera right now, I'd make some little movements with my hands. Dance movements of our DNA actually control our flight through time, like which events we're going to experience. So, if there's a magical event, like, you flap your arms and you actually fly as if you had wings, that's a magical, quote unquote, event. You can't even be on those timelines if your DNA is inhibited from being able to do those dances. It's like saying you can't even believe that is possible, so you can't inhabit those realities. And when you do the flying rainbow lasagna, you get to do a new dance with your DNA and believe in a expanded level of reality. It's called adding an additional degree of freedom. In math talk, every time you add another dimension, you add an additional degree of freedom. So like folding a flat piece of paper into a 3-dimensional origami shape, that has added an additional degree of freedom. Or like getting wings. If you're a little insect, all of a sudden you grow wings. Now you can jump off the surface of the leaf and actually fly around. Humanity is gaining its wings. This is the metamorphosis process. This is the birth that we have gone through. gone through the birth process. So I've been speaking here for 4 years about what are these birth pains? What are we experiencing? What do we need to do? And I say to everyone, like, I'm not going to keep it hidden behind some, paywall, because it's got to be like, if you're doing you got to do your Lamaze, your natural childbirth breathing exercises, like, I'm not going to keep it a secret and be like, no, you have to suffer and toil during the childbirth. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. And I'm laughing. I hope you can tell that. Like, no, of course not. I would want everyone to know, like, these are effective techniques for how you get through the difficulties and duress of childbirth. So that's what we've been going through as individuals and as collectives, as the collective here, the social collective here. And now we have exited the womb. We have gone through this transformation, and each one of us needs to, we're expanding what we can do and also take responsibility for what we do. Because it's never effective to make excuses and be like, it wasn't my fault. I blame that guy over there. I didn't actually do that. If you're in your body and you're living this life, you got to take responsibility for the things that you have done. This is like saying you're the dreamer, you're the divine being, you're the God, you're the collapser of waveforms, you're the painter, you're the artist, you're making this stuff happen. And of course, we have been in this distorted time field where there have been all these things that are errant, unintentional. So before, you don't have to take responsibility for the things that have gone on that are part of the distorted time field, just being really, really clear. You don't have to take responsibility if it's been dark magic or satanic technology that has been creating these distortions. So if you sent out goodness, but you didn't actually receive goodness back. However, now we're in a new realm. That's what I'm talking about, that watershed moment, or the moment of birth. Everything is different after that baby comes out. The baby now breathes air. It doesn't breathe amniotic fluid. It now eats its own food. It doesn't just get food from the blood supply of the mother that's already digested her food. Everything changes, and the baby also begins to learn its own levels of personal responsibility, how to walk, how to talk, how not to fall downstairs, how not to get hurt. This is why we are cosmic infants now. We need to learn how to navigate this new realm of possibilities. How do we use our imaginations in order to create reality? How do we do so responsibly? How do we integrate this new reality that we're creating in continuity with the old reality from which we are emerging? Because if I just wave my magic wand and poof, all of a sudden we find ourselves in this utopian, wonderful fantasy land, some people are very logical and they're going to be like, wait a minute, how did we get here? Like, that's like being in a dream. You didn't never actually park your car. You just ended up on the beach. So part of it is transformation of society and on a larger level, social structures and economic structures. Part of it is transformation on an individual level. And that might be a profound healing of your body. If there are diseases or disabilities that come from previous experiences, previous life experiences, it is now possible to heal from them profoundly and to supersede whatever limitations they may have placed on your full expression here in this reality. And I've experienced my own ongoing neurological healing, superseding or transcending the physical biological damage to the brain structure of this body so that I can do all the things that need to be done. Clearly, I speak, I speak fluidly now. I walk, I talk, I dance like a flying rainbow lasagna, I make music, and it's been an ongoing, healing and reintegration and, empowerment or re-empowerment. It's, very wonderful and good. And I bring that up not just to say like everything is great for me, but to say here is an example of the type of thing that can happen. So many people are also understanding you can flying rainbow lasagna in order to heal whatever previous traumas one has experienced. They can be emotional or sexual traumas. They can be physical traumas, so that it doesn't have to be that bad thing that happened in the past defines or limits your existence moving forward. And that is also what changing timelines is all about. When you change your DNA, change the dance of your DNA, you change what timelines you can hop into and you can inhabit. And as you run a different mental program, I'm not a transhumanist, but running different mental software is like having a different thought pattern. When you get a different thought pattern, then you can say, hey, I'm now in this new reality, thinking a new thought pattern, and my body acts and behaves differently. And whatever disease I used to have, I don't have to have anymore, because that was a part of an old context, an old thought pattern. So running a new thought pattern that says, and there's even, hey, I talk about this every week. There's a new thought pattern where you used to have to eat physical food, and then we've been in a transition for having to eat, physical food and do sunlight too, then when we really run the new thought pattern, we get to only eat sunlight and don't have to eat physical food. So we're on the journey. We're going in the right direction to have that experience. And when I say that, I'm not trying to negate having a physical body. I don't hate my body. I don't hate being here in a body. There are many friends that I had that were like, they found the body to be so choreful. And they were naturalized humans. They weren't like visitors like me. They were like, oh, having a body. Oh, I have to eat and poop and blah, blah. My body is hungry now. Like all these different things. And they looked at it so choresome and so burdensome. And I'm like, no, having a body is cool. Having a body is fun. Eating is fun. Eating is cool. And when you switch to a pure sunlight diet, it's not like drinking pablum. It's not like some flavorless liquid or like, some kind of protein shake that you just drink on down that does not give you any actual, satisfaction. People like to eat, like fried chicken or, something that is like crunchy and delicious, or nachos, because it's like, it's fun to chew. It's fun to chomp on. And yeah, when you eat sunlight, it doesn't have to be like, oh, now I just drink nothing but pablum and have no, no snackability. Like, no, it can be very satisfying. And so we're on the journey to be able to transform on a mental level to just eat nothing but pure sunlight. Not there yet. Like all of these things, like I'm saying, it's like learning how to play the piano, learning how to be a virtuoso. It takes time. So please let us all love ourselves on the journey, be gentle with ourselves, understand that we're in a transitionary process. And part of that process also involves a transformation of the outer realm. So Flying Rainbow Lasagna, this is the inner realm and the outer realm coming together. So this is not just about you as an individual, healing your own body and transforming your own consciousness. This is also about healing the body of planet Earth and transforming the entire human social collective and transforming the entire, plant and animal and mineral kingdom on this planet. Because so much of the what is out of balance on the planet, what's unhealthy in the planet's metabolism, in a lot of ways can be traced back to unhealthy thought structures expressed through the human mind, which I tell you all the time is a hacked operating system and does not actually originate with humanity. So humans need to not be taking responsibility for things that aren't actually their fault. It's actually the programmers of the human mind, those original software engineers that created a really crappy program, and that those software engineers are the invaders to this planet. Those are the beings who are actually responsible for the problems with this mind and the fact that it's got huge software vulnerabilities through which demons can reach through intrusive thoughts and come into your mind and affect your perception and self-expression. So a big part of this is also choosing not to have those invaders come into the mind. And it's like, oh, it's all well and good, Aurora, to say like, just choose not to have them come into your mind. Of course, it's like becoming a virtuoso. It's like growing muscles. It's like becoming a marathon runner. It doesn't happen overnight, but the more that you do it, the better you get at it. And so for a very long time, those beings have been eating away at humanity like, oh, it's easy pickings. Just eat them. They're easy to eat. And now it's like, wait a minute, humans are actually fighting back and they're not that easy to eat anymore. And the beings that like to eat humans, they're incredibly cowardly and lazy. And they only like to eat what's easy. They're kind of like scavengers. So in the last few moments here, first, let me say thank you. Thank you to everyone who's been with me on this journey. I know I have some long-term listeners and some people who have been in my class for many years, and I'm so happy not to be a lone garage musician, only playing by myself and wondering if I'm the only sane person on the planet. Like, it's actually wonderful to know there are other sane, divine beings that recognize their own divinity that are here, in order to add to the goodness of the music of the Symphony of Life. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for playing your own music and becoming virtuosos. Very happy to be collaborating with you. And where are we going now? Because I've said, hey, we've been laboring in birth contractions, going through these profound challenges, and now we've given birth. And something. So first of all, take heart. If you don't see immediate results in your life, like Aurora, how come I'm not sitting on a golden toilet seat yet? How come everything's not perfect yet? Takes a bit of time, but I see profound changes in my own life. in terms of being able to fully express the artistic ideas that I have that are, inside, intangible, and manifest into the outer world, and also in terms of my mind and my positive intentions affecting reality. I definitely see it faster and faster. It's not just a small chocolate bar anymore. It's bigger things, and they happen faster. So take heart, and please work on your own manifestation projects. And I think it goes without saying, like, when we are working on this, it is meant to be beyond the mere ego. That when you start to do the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, you recognize how profoundly interconnected you are to all consciousness everywhere, to all of the other biological and non-biological life forms that are both on and off this planet. So this is what it means, like when you're a little baby and you get born and then you have to start taking responsibility for all the things that you do. We need to all take responsibility for the things that come out of our minds, for the flowers that grow out of the garden of our mind, and say, hey, I cultivated that, I made that garden, I made those things happen, I made that grow. And then also to, rectify things. If something is ugly on the painting, erase it. Erase it away, paint over it, gesso over that ugly part, and paint a new area there. This is what it means to be the auteur of your existence. So the woman who told me about her near-miss car accident, she saw an ugly part of the painting where she would be smashed up on the road, and she covered it over with white paint, painted a better painting on top of it. We should all be doing this. So it's possible. The opportunity exists. Let's all be doing this. So we're in now. Now we get to the fun stuff. Is basically the answer. Spend years doing dirty laundry, or like, oh my goodness, I just relocated again, moved to a new place, and it's a good place. Don't worry, it's a good move. But when you first move in someplace, it's like, oh my goodness, the first couple of weeks, it's just like I just spend time just trying to organize my studio, just trying to clean up. Clean the floor, assemble the tables, you Windex everything, spray clean everything, vacuum the floor. And then finally, oh my goodness, I remember the first day, and it wasn't that long ago, it was just like a week or so ago, that I'm like, everything is clean, everything is organized, all of my chores are done, and now I can finally get that drawing going. Now I can finally work on that painting, because that's what we're actually here to be doing. So we have spent years doing the inner transformational work, relieving ourselves of emotional burdens so that we don't manifest from that level of reality. It's like dirty laundry, doing chores, cleaning up. And it's so boring. Oh my goodness. Like, I'm not complaining, but it's nice to have the clean end result, but that's not the creative act. It's like pretty boring. So we've done all of the boring stuff, choreful work. Now we can finally get down to the fun stuff, which is also, where it takes a lot of responsibility, because on my paintings, I have to stand behind them. When I draw a line, I put it there on purpose. No one else moved my arm. I made that thing happen. So if someone comes along and they're critical and they're like, Aurora, why did you put this here? And why is it painted red? I have to have an answer for that. I can't just be like, oh, oops, I made a mistake, or oops, I felt like it. It's like, no, actually, it's my creation. I have to say, I did it because of this, and this is why I kept it there. So in each one of our lives and our larger collective of humanity that we are manifesting, we need to take huge levels of responsibility and say, hey, why is this thing here? Did I put it here on purpose? Do I like it here? Do I want to keep it here? Social structures, economic structures, approaches to health, all these things. I can name a huge long laundry list of the things that need to be improved here. And that's also part of why I'm actually here. I'm invested in this world. I'm not just some outsider looking at the problems and looking down my nose and criticizing. I'm actually here as an experiencer. And what we do at this point is redefine reality. And we get to experience heaven on earth. And heaven is a state of mind. It is not a different, otherworldly place that you go to. It is a transformative experience or a reperception of this place that we've been living in for a long time. So thank you for being with me on this journey. Thank you for helping to give birth to this new dimension. And please continue to use your minds, paint a beautiful painting, continue to be your own unique flying rainbow lasagnas. And thank you, and I love you.